Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we actually need to talk about Facebook again because Facebook has a drug and human trafficking problem. They have a slavery problem. We need to talk about this, and this is absolutely nuts. More amazing reporting coming from the Wall Street Journal. I can't not report on this. Just fantastic. Now, here's what's going on. In January, a former police officer turned Facebook investigator posted an all-staff memo on the company's internal message board. He proceeded to detail a new set of what he called learnings, and the biggest one was that a Mexican drug cartel was using Facebook to recruit, train, and pay hitmen. Now, the behavior is obviously shocking and in clear violation of Facebook's rules, but Facebook didn't stop the cartel from posting on Instagram, the company's photo sharing site. Scores of internal Facebook documents reviewed by the Wall Street Journal show employees raising alarms about how its platform is being used in some developing countries where its user base is already very large and expanding. They also show the company's response, which in many instances is simply inadequate or nothing at all. Now, employees flagged that human traffickers in the Middle East use the site to lure women into abusive employment situations where they were treated like slaves and obviously basically forced to perform things like sex work. They warn that armed groups in Ethiopia use the site to incite violence against ethnic minorities. They sent alerts to their bosses that on an organ selling, pornography, and government action against political dissidents, and more. According to these documents, literally people are selling organs, like internal organs, not like church music organ, and other things, and here we are. Facebook removed some of these pages, although many more simply operate openly and not taken down, not looked at, not checked. In some countries where Facebook operates, it has few or no people who actually speak the dialects needed to identify dangerous or criminal uses of their platform. And so it's completely open. You can do whatever you want. If you speak a language that Facebook doesn't understand, you can put up pretty much anything, and Facebook has no real way to moderate that. Even if people are complaining, you can't actually read the post, even though you might be able to see pictures. Now, when problems have surfaced publicly, Facebook says it addressed them by taking down offending posts, but it hasn't actually fixed the systems that allow the offenders to repeat the bad behavior, meaning I can put up an illegal page, they find it, take it down, I can put up another illegal page and keep on rolling. Instead, priority is actually given to retaining users, helping business partners, and at times placating authoritarian governments whose support for Facebook sometimes basically shows that Facebook needs to operate within their borders. So in other words, Facebook is basically willing to kowtow to authoritarian governments, providing they are allowed to operate, and therefore they don't police anything, or very rarely do. Myanmar is that perfect example. A massive disinformation campaign led to what most people consider a genocide straight on Facebook, because Facebook was free, and Facebook is where most people in Myanmar and Myanmarans, I'm not sure, get their news. Now, Facebook treats harm in developing countries as basically, quote unquote, simply the cost of doing business in those places. That's according to Brian Boland, a former Facebook vice president who oversaw partnerships with internet providers in Africa and Asia before resigning at the end of last year. Facebook has focused its safety efforts on wealthier markets with powerful governments and media institutions, according to Mr. Boland, and even as it's turned to poorer countries for user growth. Now, the documents revealed by the Wall Street Journal are reports from employees who are studying the use of Facebook around the world, including human exploitation and other abuses on the platform. They write about their embarrassment and frustration, citing decisions that allow users to post videos of murders, incitements to violence, government threats against pro-democracy campaigners, and advertisements for human trafficking. Some of the most serious issues flagged by the documents are overseas. Activists have complained for years that Facebook does little to protect overseas users from trouble it knows that occurs on its platform. The documents show that many within Facebook itself, their employees, actually agree with this as well. Now, Apple, as in maker of the iPhone, has gotten into the mix on the heels of the Wall Street Journal reporting and also before. Now, here's what's going on. Apple's threatened to remove Facebook's products from its App Store, which would be a massive blow to Facebook, Instagram, and anything else that Facebook owns, after the BBC out of the UK found domestic slaves for sale on apps, including Instagram, in 2019. Now, this new Wall Street Journal reporting shows that Facebook did next to nothing here, and so the BBC is once again reporting on this. The BBC alerted Google and Apple as apps in which women were listed for sale were available basically in the app stores. Google's Android, iPhone for Apple as well. The illegal sales are obviously a clear breach of essentially the tech firm's rules for developers and applications as well as users. And both Apple and Google said that they will work with developers and have worked with developers to prevent illegal activity. Google said it was deeply troubled by the findings. Apple said it expected developers to take immediate corrective actions. Facebook's default response is basically, yeah, we're on it, we're addressing the situation, but clearly over time they have not, as the BBC again reported this almost 3 years ago at this point. This is a huge problem. And so as we are looking at Facebook, maybe it's much easier to police English and other languages that they have a lot of people that know and understand. But for the rest of it, it's a huge, huge problem. And so think about it this way. When you have 3+ billion people connecting to one platform, posting everything from a picture of what they ate, for lunch, to their innermost thoughts, to personal thoughts, to stupid things, to links, to stories that are hopefully factual and true and not misinformation and disinformation, it is a very hard thing to police. But with Facebook basically prioritizing user retention, therefore for user retention, which means more data mining, which means more advertising revenue, they are essentially turning a blind eye to the plight of people that fall into human trafficking accidentally, think they're getting a great job overseas, end up in a dungeon somewhere or God knows where, not to mention drug cartels and everything else. This is a huge problem. Facebook really doesn't care, and the documents consistently show that the one primary driver that Facebook has consistently had is revenue. If it affects the revenue, if it possibly knocks the revenue down in some way, shape, or form, they will take action. Outside of that, they don't seem to care. And if I were a Facebook employee, I would absolutely be embarrassed to work for that company, given all of these things. It is horrendous. And it's not an easy task to fix. I understand 3+ billion users, you're gonna have breakage, you're gonna have problems, you're going to see these things. But by virtue of who you are, you need to hire the right people, the people that understand the languages that you are deficient at. You have to have a platform that is going to look at demonstrably criminal and illegal things and make sure that you are being as active as possible to remove these things. And quite frankly, internal documents to Facebook show they have done anything but. This is a huge problem. Facebook cannot continue like this, and I quite frankly urge you to contact your member of Congress or your senator or anything along those lines, because quite frankly, if Facebook is going to be brought to task, it's going to be at the massive governmental level. And as a US-based corporation, they are flagrantly violating the law by allowing this to go on. And again, I understand their solution is going to have to be retroactive. I don't care how much AI and processing power they put against these things. These solutions are going to be retroactive. We're always going to have the crazies that will try to live stream a shooting event or something like that. But Facebook has to be proactive enough to understand these things, to go after these things, to look for patterns, meaning if I'm sitting here at home and I've created an illegal human trafficking site and they've taken it down and I create another illegal human trafficking site, they've got to understand that I'm essentially the same person coming from the same IP, however they're going to identify me, and not allow me to do these things. That is pretty much table stakes, and they're not doing it. It's a huge problem. And do you want your kids on there? They're looking at retaining kids. As kids get older, they leave Facebook because that's mom and dad's social media, and then in their 20s they come on back as you get closer to your family and all of that. But look at the damage that Facebook is doing worldwide, not just with misinformation and disinformation, but with blatantly illegal activity. So that is your news of the day. I've said it a million times. It's really honestly time to break Facebook up, and it's time to put Mark Zuckerberg in jail. It really is. He needs a fair trial. And I think you'd get convicted, and I think you'd agree. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, where apparently you can get the best drugs and humans. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And hopefully Google will actually take action on the Android platform, even though their business model is very similar. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please stay private. Thanks, everyone.